Let's do it! Happy Wednesday, friends. My name is Kimi Sugiyama. Thank you for coming to hang out today. I always appreciate it when you do. For today's video, I thought it would be fun to do the ABCs of travel tag. This is a list of 26 fun questions about my previous travels, one for each letter of the alphabet. I wrote a blog post with my answers back in 2012 when I first started traveling. I will link to that in the description below, but 4 years later, I think it's time to do some new answers and I wanted to do them on video. Yes? Let's get started. We're gonna power through. First question for the letter A is the age that you went on your first memorable trip. That was my trip to Hawaii with my family when I was 13. My cousins and I had a blast. For the second question for the letter B is the best beer you had, when and where. I actually don't drink alcohol anymore, but back then, back in the heyday, back 4 years ago, I tried Chang beer, I think that's what it's called, in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And I thought that was pretty good. But I don't care for the taste of beer in general, so yeah. C, favorite cuisine. C for cuisine, woo! Mine is Korean by far. I love the bibimbap, the bulgogi, japchae dishes, and especially Korean barbecue. When I lived in Japan, I actually made a lot of Korean food at home instead of Japanese food, and every day after school I would go to this area they have in Tokyo. It's basically a Korean town, and I would go and like stock up on different spices and foods and things and just like make a bunch of Korean food at home. It was delicious. D, destinations, favorite and least favorite, and why. This is always a tough question for travelers to answer, so I'm actually going to give you my top 5. Number 1 is Japan for how clean and safe and otherworldly it feels. Costa Rica for how green it is, how focused they are on ecotourism, and just how extraordinarily kind all of the people are. 3 would be Iceland, just for how clean and fresh the water and air is, and just how much stunning nature they have there. It's really surreal. 4 would be Turkey for how kind and warm the people are, and of course the food. When I went there, I found that the food was very healthy and delicious and very cheap, so it's, you know, a triple threat. And last is Taiwan for the neon lights, riding around on motorbikes, and the food, and I just think Taiwan is one of the most underrated destinations in Asia. It's kind of like a hidden gem. It's a hidden gem. Hidden gem, go to Taiwan! E, it's event or experience that made you say, wow. For me, it was getting to the summit of Mount Fuji. I climbed to the top in July 2015, and when you get to the top, it's cold, yes, but you can just kind of see over all of Japan, not all of Japan. There is an area around Mount Fuji called the Fuji 5 Lakes, and there's supposed to be really good spots to actually see the mountain on a clear day without having to climb. And so you can kind of see over all of those lakes at the top, and it's really, really beautiful. Favorite mode of transportation. If I'm traveling between cities or overland long distance, I like to take the trains. Otherwise, if I'm just hopping between like different spots in one city or going from one town to the next, I like to walk or ride my bike. Greatest feeling while traveling. Just feeling full from good conversations with like good friends or new friends that you meet during traveling. I always love talking to people and hearing their stories, so that's my favorite. Hottest place you've traveled to. Israel in the summer, Austin, Texas, and Florida in the summer are very hot and very humid. Incredible service you experienced and where. This is another story I told in a previous Q&A, and I will link to that down in the description below. But when I was in Iceland, I went to a restaurant where I had apparently over-tipped the waiter by the equivalent of $25 US, and I didn't know it because I was hazy on currency exchange rates. Long story short, the restaurant managed to track down the hostel I was staying at and called me to come get my change. That was very exceptional service. Thank you. Journey that took the longest. I spent 40 hours in transit from Cairns, Australia to Detroit, Michigan. That was the longest journey ever. I flew from Cairns to Sydney, Sydney to Honolulu, Honolulu to Dallas, and then Dallas to Detroit. But in each layover, I had about 6 or 7 hours. So by the time I got to Dallas, I honestly thought I wasn't gonna make it. I had one flight left, and I passed out on the chairs in the airport. I was like, oh, I'm so tired and sick. It wasn't a good day. I didn't care for that. Australia, you're so difficult to get to. Keepsake from your travels. So your favorite keepsake from your travels. In my travel journal, hey, I have this red leaf that I picked up from the grounds of the Silver Pavilion in Kyoto, Japan. It was my first time seeing Japan in all of its glorious autumn colors, and I just couldn't believe it, and I really wanted to take some of the autumn colors home with me, and so this was my way of doing that. Picked up this red leaf, and it's kind of lost a lot of its color now, but I just keep it in my travel journal to remind me of Japan and how beautiful that season was, and as a memento of my first trip to my favorite country. Letdown site, where? I would say the DMZ, or the Demilitarized Zone in South Korea. It's the border of South Korea and North Korea, where you can go and kind of see into North Korea, and even like go into North Korea when you go to like the barracks and you see the soldiers on guard and you cross like around the table, and it's like, oh my god, you're in Korea, you're in North Korea. But when I went, I just thought it was so commercialized, and like they were making a mockery out of the division, you know, in the Korean War. And I just felt like I wasn't supporting Korea when I went there, and it just, I don't know, gave me a weird feeling. Moment where I fell in love with travel. There's not one moment in particular where I fell in love. It was kind of a gradual process, or like a series of moments where I was feeling grateful to travel, or like, yes, this is why I travel. And one of those moments I would say was doing a home-cooked Istanbul tour, where I got to go have dinner with a family living in Istanbul and kind of learn about what life is like in Turkey. And that's kind of where I learned how present like terrorism is in Turkey, even though when you're there you can't really feel it. It was one of those moments of shift for me, being welcomed into someone's home halfway across the world. It just really started to shift the way that I travel and the way that I think about, you know, humanity in general. Nicest or most unique lodging you've stayed in? Definitely the Eco Lodge I stayed in the middle of the rainforest in Costa Rica. Obsession, what are you most obsessed with taking pictures of on your travels? For me, it is mountains and landscapes and people sleeping on trains. Passport stamps, how many do I have and from where? I have 61 stamps from over 20 countries. Quirkiest attraction you visited and where? Recently I went to visit my friend Anna in Austin, Texas, and we went to go play putt-putt golf at this Peter Pan golf course, and it was just a tad creepy. Recommended site, event, and or experience? A recent one for me was my yoga retreat at Blue Osa in Costa Rica. I will link all of the posts that I wrote on my blog about that. It was, oh my god. Splurge, something I have no problem forking over money for during my travels. For me, that is definitely food. I like to splurge on a nice hotel, especially if it's my last night in a destination, just to kind of relax, ensure that I get a good night's sleep before I get on a plane the next day. And I like to spend a lot of money on experiences. Like for example, rather than going to see a taiko drum show in Japan, I would love to take a taiko drum class. Touristy thing I've done, Eiffel Tower in Paris. Unforgettable travel memory. They're all pretty unforgettable, but my visit to Palestine was definitely one for the books. We had lunch with this family who was telling us about how they don't feel safe in their own home, and it's like any day they could just have their house broken into, there could be wars started on the street, and it was just very heartbreaking, and it made me really grateful for the life that I do have. Visas, how many and from where? I have tourist visas from Turkey, Russia, China, and I also have a work visa in my passport from Japan, and I'll also be getting a tourist visa for Nepal for my trip in November. Best glass of wine, when and where? Again, I don't drink alcohol, so I'm going to say that the freshest water is from Iceland. Excellent view, and from where? There's a place in Japan that is easily accessible from Tokyo, Yokohama area. It is called Shosenkyo Gorge. It's a place where you can go hiking, and when you get to the top, it looks something like this. Wow. Years spent traveling. I've been traveling on and off now for about 4 years. It's crazy. And lastly, the most zealous sports fans, and from where? I would say the New York Yankees versus the Boston Red Sox at Fenway Park in Boston. I actually didn't go to the game, but I was walking around the outside of the stadium, and there were a lot of fist fights and yelling going on. They're very serious about their baseball in New England. So that's it for the ABC's travel tag. I hope you enjoyed that. I will leave these questions down in the description below, so feel free to answer some of them in the comments so that I can get to know you and your travel history a little bit better. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I make new videos every Wednesday, so if you want to see more travel videos, subscribe, and I will see you guys next week. Bye bye.